Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 is an illuminated manuscript. It is a Latin Computus, or treatise on the calculation of the date of Easter, written by Byrhtferth of Ramsey in the early 12th century. The manuscript is notable for its extensive use of illumination, or decorative illustrations, which include diagrams, calendars, and astronomical charts. The illuminations in Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 are considered to be some of the finest examples of English medieval manuscript illumination. Some of the most notable features of the illuminations in Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 are the use of bright colours, such as red, blue and gold, to create a vibrant and visually appealing effect. The use of intricate details, such as in the depiction of astrological symbols and astronomical charts. The use of symbols, such as the use of the sun and moon to represent the two cycles of the year, the solar and lunar cycles. The illuminations in Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 are not only beautiful, but they also provide valuable insights into the medieval worldview. They show how people in the Middle Ages understood the cosmos and their place within it. They also show how people in the Middle Ages used art to communicate complex ideas and concepts. The Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17, or more commonly known as the Oxford Arundel MS 155, was originally housed at Ramsey Abbey in Cambridgeshire until the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century. It was then acquired by the Arundel family, and eventually it was donated to St John's College in Oxford in 1667. It is a collection of Anglo-Saxon texts. It is a manuscript that has been studied by scholars for centuries, and its contents provide valuable insights into the literary, cultural and historical contexts of the Anglo-Saxon period. The manuscript is written on parchment, a type of animal skin that was commonly used for writing during the medieval period. The pages are arranged in quires, or groups of folded sheets, and the text is written in a large, clear script that is easy to read. Despite its importance as a historical and cultural artifact, the Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 has not always received the attention it deserves from scholars. The manuscript was largely unknown until the early 20th century, when it was discovered by the scholar Kenneth Sisson in the library of St John's College. Since then, it has become the subject of much scholarly research and has shed new light on the history and culture of medieval England. The Byrhtferth's Manuscript was originally created in the late 10th century, during the reign of King Ethelred the Ready, from 978 to 1016 AD. The manuscript was written in Old English and contains a diverse array of texts, including scientific treatises, poetry, historical chronicles, saints' lives, and religious homilies. The manuscript is named after Byrhtferth of Ramsey, born 970, died in 1020, a monk scribe who was likely responsible for compiling and copying the text found in the manuscript while living at Forney Abbey, a Benedictine monastery in Cambridgeshire. The Byrhtferth's Manuscript MS 17 is significant because it provides evidence of the transmission and dissemination of text during the Anglo-Saxon period. It is a compilation of texts, tables, maps and diagrams. This volume is an album of text and graphic material organised around what in the Middle Ages was called Computus, literally computation, the medieval science of reckoning time and fixing the dates of ecclesiastical feasts, particularly Easter. Byrhtferth's most famous diagram is a visual meditation on the cosmic and religious resonances of Computus. Its subject is the harmony of the 12 months and 4 elements of time and the material world. Byrhtferth's own Computus does not survive, but there are 3 12th century copy manuscripts still in existence. It also includes writings by Abbo of Fleury, who was born 944 and died 1004, Byrhtferth's former teacher. This particular copy was created at Peterborough Abbey in the second quarter of the 12th century. Its importance for the cultural and intellectual history of Anglo-Saxon and Anglo-Norman England has been recognised since the 16th century by historians, theologians and scholars working in the fields of medieval science, monistic culture and the history of the book. The core of Computus material is surrounded by a halo of subjects which were intimately connected with time, such as astronomy, cosmology, geography, medicine, history, mathematics and prognostication. It is a superb example of a type of compilation that could be found in many medieval cloisters and schools, but is also unique in its dimensions, its thoughtful arrangement and its exquisite decoration. The diagrams in the manuscript were used for measuring the ratio of geometric shapes, calculating the date of Easter, and predicting if a person's illness was going to be fatal. Others demonstrated how to identify the winds and divide branches of knowledge into subject groups. One diagram on the harmony of the microcosm and macrocosm summarised Byrhtferth's view of how the level of man, the microcosm, extends on a larger scale to the celestial world, the macrocosm. Formed of arches and diamonds, the inner circle contains the first letters of the Greek language terms for east, Anatol, west, Disius, north, Achten, and south, Mesmerized. These letters form the name Adam, when read in the form of the sign of the cross. Circles in the outer circle designate in Latin terra, earth, ich, air, ignis, fire, and aqua, water. Moving clockwise from bottom left, the 4 seasons are situated between the elements. For example, Estas, summer, is characterized as warm and dry, so it has been placed between fire and earth. Byrhtferth himself said about this diagram from the Thorny Computus, which is on page 8, "This figure contains the 12 signs and the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes and the twice 2 seasons of the year, and in it are described the 4 names of the elements and the names of the 12 winds and the 4 ages of man. At the same time are added the twice 2 letters of the name of the first man, Adam." In addition to its historical texts, the Byrhtferth manuscript MS-17 also includes a number of works on theology and religion. For example, the manuscript contains a treatise on the nature of Christ, which was written by a monk named Alchion of York in the 8th century, and was a scholar, clergyman, poet and teacher. He was born around 735 AD and became the student of Archbishop Egbert at York in Northumberland. This treatise was widely read and discussed in the Middle Ages, and continues to be of interest to theologians and scholars today. As one scholar notes, Alcuin's treatise of the nature of Christ is a classic example of medieval theology, and its inclusion in the Byrhtferth manuscript speaks to the high level of intellectual activity that was taking place in Anglo-Saxon England at its time. The manuscript is a compilation of texts that covers a wide range of subjects. Some of the other most notable works in the manuscript include the Enchiridion of Augustine, a handbook on Christian faith and doctrine, which is one of the most significant texts in the Byrhtferth manuscript 17. The Enchiridion on faith, hope and love, also called the Manual or Handbook, is a complete treatise on Christian piety, written by Augustine of Hippo in response to a request by an otherwise unknown person named Laurentius, shortly after the death of St. Jerome in 420 AD. It is intended as a model for Christian instruction. The work is organised according to the 3 graces necessary for the Christian worship of God: faith, hope and love. Under faith, Augustine explains the use of Apostles' Creed in teaching Christian doctrine and in refuting heresies. Under hope, he briefly explains the Lord's Prayer as a model of Christian prayer. The final part is a discourse on Christian love. The Enchiridion was widely read in medieval England and had a significant influence on religious practice. The Old English Bede, a translation of the Historia Ecclesiastica Gentes Anglium, which is a historical account of England written by the Venerable Bede in the 8th century, Bede, born 672 and died in 735 AD, was born in Northumbria, and at the age of 7 entered the monastery of Wearmouth and Jarrow near Newcastle, where he spent all of his adult life. In the Middle Ages, he was famous for the works he wrote on the interpretation of Scripture, on the natural world, and on how to calculate the date of Easter. Bede was also known as Saint Bede, the Venerable Bede, and Bede the Venerable. Bede's ecclesiastical history of the English people was completed in 731 AD. The work tells the story of the conversion of the English people to Christianity. His account is the chief source of information about English history from the arrival of St. Augustine in Kent in 597 until 731 AD. But Bede begins his history much earlier, with Julius Caesar's invasion of England in 55 BCE. Bede used several other sources in compiling his own account, each of which he acknowledged. After briefly summarising Christianity in Roman Britain, Bede describes St. Augustine's mission, which brought Christianity to the Anglo-Saxons. The work describes the subsequent attempts to convert the different kingdoms of Britain, including Mercia, Sussex and Northumbria. The Old English Martyrology, a collection of biographies of Christian saints and martyrs, is one of the longest and most important prose texts written in Anglo-Saxon England. It also represents one of the most impressive examples of encyclopedic writing from the European Middle Ages. It was used for over 200 years, providing its readers with information on native and foreign saints, time measurement, the seasons of the year, biblical events and cosmology. Its lively vinaigrettes illustrate the importance of miracle stories for the early medieval cult of saints. The Worcester Chronicle, a chronicle of the history of England from the Roman period up to the mid-12th century, written in Old English. A major source for the history of England from the death of Bede, 26th of May 735 AD, until the reign of King Stephen. The Chronicle is one of the most famous and important manuscripts in the Corpus Christi collection. The manuscript was written at Worcester Cathedral Priory over a period of time terminating in 1140 AD. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle is a compilation of annuals written in Old English, chronicles the history of the Anglo-Saxons. It was initially created during the reign of Alfred the Great, 871 to 899 AD, in the late 9th century, most likely in Wessex. It is a valuable historical chronicle that provides a comprehensive account of English history from the beginning of the Roman occupation. It contains several saints' lives, including that of St. Oswald, the King of Northumbria, who died in a battle against the pagan king Pendra of Mercia in 632 AD. The manuscript also includes a homily on the Virgin Mary and a collection of prayers, making it a significant religious text. Although the chronicle is sometimes biased, and the scribes who wrote it may have omitted certain events or told one-sided versions of stories, it remains the most significant historical source for the period in England between the departure of the Romans and the decades following the Norman conquest. The manuscripts are also critical sources for the history of the English language, with the later Peterborough text being one of the earliest examples of Middle English in existence. It is a rich source of information that provides a detailed account of various events, such as the Viking invasions, and it also contains a chronicle of the kings of Wessex, spanning from the 7th to the 9th century. This chronicle is a valuable source of information about the political and social history of Anglo-Saxon England, and has been extensively cited by historians and other scholars. As one of the most significant sources for the history of Wessex during the Anglo-Saxon period, it offers crucial insights into the region's past. Another interesting aspect of the Byrhtferth manuscript, MS-17, is its inclusion of texts on natural science. For example, the manuscript contains a treatise on the properties of stones, which describes the physical and chemical characteristics of various types of rocks and minerals. This treatise has been cited by geologists and other scientists as an important early work on this subject. As one commentator notes, the Byrhtferth's treatise on stones is a fascinating example of the ways in which medieval scholars sought to understand the natural world, and it provides valuable insights into the development of early scientific thoughts. The Byrhtferth's Manuscript 17 also contains a number of scientific works, including an early version of the medical treatise known as the Old English Herbal. This text provides valuable insights into the way medieval people thought about and treated illnesses, and it also gives us a glimpse into the natural world as it was understood during this period. Its diverse collection of texts provides a rich and multifaceted view of the culture and history of this period, and its value to the field of medieval studies cannot be overstated. The Byrhtferth's Manuscript MS-17 at St John's College, Oxford, is a rich and valuable resource for scholars studying medieval England. Its diverse collection of texts makes for a highly unique document that provides important insights into the intellectual and cultural life of Anglo-Saxon England. Its historical texts, theological treatises, and works on natural science offer a window into the diverse and complex intellectual traditions of this fascinating period in English history, and its physical characteristics make it a remarkable example of the art and craft of medieval bookmaking.